Welcome to Vlogmas Day 21. Can you believe it? And today I'm going to tell you a story from my life that may especially resonate if you have a chronic disease or if you've ever come to a point in your life when you weren't exactly sure, steady on your feet as far as what tomorrow might bring. This might sound really strange, but I'm feeling really uncomfortable about telling this aspect of my story. There's a lot of parts of my life that I keep kind of close. And I also feel like it's really important to tell this story because December 21st is a big day in my life, historically. And I don't want to go past it. Also makes me curious if there's stories in your life that you're uncomfortable telling. I'm tight, hold them close, and just don't want to share them. If that's the case for you, is that like a boundary that you're holding, or is it something that you are afraid of due to shame or family rules or worrying about something being TMI? If you would pop that into the comments for a moment, that would, I don't want to say it would encourage me, but yeah, it could encourage me and it could encourage other people. And I know that usually for me, if I write things first, it makes it easier to tell. In this case, I didn't do that. But in tomorrow's video and Tuesday's videos, I'm pre-storyboarding so I don't run into the same situation. Okay, on with the story. If this is your first time here, I'm Julie Jordan Scott. I'm a multi-passionate creative. I am no longer young, but am very energetic and happy to be alive. Unpleasant things have happened, sure, and I don't spend a lot of time focusing on who I am because of those things. Because my life is really based on how I am living and who I am living as this person I've become because of those things, and not only because of those things. And because you're here today, it must mean that we were meant to connect. There's no accidents. And there's no accidents that I have this story to tell and that you are here on this day that I'm telling the story. On December 21st, 2019, I woke up while it was still dark out. And I watched as I saw the light slowly reaching up over the horizon. I was in a pretty dark place. I had been in the hospital throughout a big chunk of October. And during that time I was in the hospital, I had a near-death experience, almost having died from sepsis and valley fever, which is a lung disease that comes from the mold in spores in the soil in the Central Valley of California. It's a rare disease in most places, but there in Bakersfield, it's somewhat common. I did not know when I called the urgent care because my fever wasn't going down that I would end up being sent by ambulance to the hospital and spend 2 weeks there after the sepsis attack caused many of my organs to fail. Most significantly, my kidneys were failing and did not appear to be coming back. My creatine levels were dangerously low, and things could have turned out much worse than they did. But after I got home, what was strange was the rest of the world was like, yay, you're home. But it was a very dark time. When I was at home, my daughter was able to take care of me, thank goodness. But I am pretty darn stubborn. And I didn't want her to get nervous if I was overly dependent upon her. So I mostly played off my needs, and I perhaps should have considered going to therapy. As my primary care doctor said, look, you've been through a trauma. You could benefit from some mental health care. But I, again, was stubborn. And as I fell deeper and deeper into a dark space, I wasn't even really interested in writing, which had always been my anchor art. No matter what, I could always write, did always write, loved writing. But on that day, December 21st, 2019, as I watched the sunrise, I said, something's got to give, because if I don't change, if I don't do something differently, this will never get better. Christmas has been rough for me for a long time. There's many different circumstances. Again, I don't like to focus on those things that I can't change from the past. And I can't change any of the bad things or the less than spectacular things that happened in those years. But I knew that I could focus on something. So I asked myself, what is something that brought you joy in the past that you could do and that you might consider even doing every day for a while to see what happens? So as I watched the sunrise, I remembered how I used to write very short poetry in the morning, usually in response to the sunrise. And one of my friends would say that she would read those poems that I posted on social media, and she would read my words, and then she'd go outside and she'd look at the sunrise and she would see how my words matched what she was seeing. On that day, I wrote a very short poem describing the sunrise, and I took a photo, and I felt better. I said, okay, that feels good. I'll try this for 7 days to see what happens. So I wrote a very short poem for 7 days. And what that meant was that I had to wake up, look around wherever I found myself, and see something that caught my eye. Something as simple as a tree, a limb on a tree, a leaf, whatever I happened upon on my path. I remember what clinched it for me. Now this is going to sound weird, but I have a whole body of work, a whole collection of photos of shopping carts that I call them shopping carts in the wild. Because the rule that I have for that is I have to find a shopping cart that's not in a parking lot. And it has to be a shopping cart just left by someone. And then I would take a picture of it. So on the 7th day, or around the 7th day, I was out on a short walk by the riverbed, and I took a photo of a shopping cart, and I said, I want to keep doing this. So for 377 days, that was a magical number, I wrote haiku and shared it on Facebook with a photo. So it was like photo, poem, Facebook. And then what happened was photo, poem, Facebook, and people would respond. And it made me suddenly feel like I was making a contribution again. It made me feel like people cared whether I was here or not. And think about having a really small goal, like the writing haiku every day. I gave myself rules. Write a haiku, take a photo, write a haiku, and post it before noon. And before noon was pretty critical for me because it was like a daily target. And so no matter how sad I was or how whatever was going on, I could always do that before noon thing. It was extremely helpful. We didn't know when I was living out this story that had it start in October 2019, we didn't know what was coming next. We didn't know that COVID-19 was right around the corner. I finished my book. It will be out around my birthday, which is at the end of January. And haiku really did, in some ways, save my life. So after the haiku, 377, I went on to hug 377 trees. Or I hugged trees for 377 days in a row. Now, hugging trees is a little bit stranger than writing haiku. It's very much more public, and you have to put yourself out there as a tree hugger, which is kind of eccentric. Not that I'm eccentric or anything, but I did that for 377 days. Today is Solstice. December 21st is the shortest day of the year, the shortest day of light. And what is so exciting is that from this day forward, we will get more and more light every day. The hardest for me is the darkness in the morning. For the second time in a row, I thought I was recording and I wasn't. You got this far. You heard me talking about the darkness in the morning versus the darkness at night. No matter which is your preference, it's going to be getting lighter again, starting, depending on when you're watching this, starting December 22nd. Sometimes life goes exactly as you planned, and sometimes life doesn't. I found there to be gifts in both. And in my near-death experience, which I didn't even go to in depth, maybe someday on here I will. But when life gets close to ending, it definitely gives you a new perspective. And I'm really seeing lately the gifts that came and that are continuing to come because I chose to live. Do hearing stories like this bother you in any way? Do you think, oh, Julie is blank, 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 blank by saying or not saying this story? I literally still feel uncomfortable that I told this. And as I said in the car segment, I think some of that has to do with how I was raised and not wanting to draw attention to myself. And when someone talks about a near-death experience, that y'all might think I'm acting overly dramatic. And seriously, it was one of the most impactful experiences of my life. So I'd love your feedback. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you will if you resonate with any of this conversation tonight. And if you don't subscribe and if you never come back again, know that I believe the world is a better place because you are in it. And for those of you who are regulars, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you. I'm so appreciative of every moment we spend together. I hope to see you tomorrow.